Good evening and welcome to Real World News TV. My name is Chara and Tappen from Cave, and joining me this evening, making a lot of ruckus, is my co-host, Reginald Kearney. I'd ask you how you are this evening, but I suspect I know.
I'm effed up. Okay. Another senseless killing today. I want to say this, first off, my prayers go out to the families in Uvalde, Texas. Very tragic, very tragic, very tragic. But so much stuff is happening around us. It's kind of easy to swallow the pill when it's adults, okay? But when it's babies,
Yeah.
second, fourth, fifth graders who won't have the opportunity to go to middle school, high school, college, graduate school. Maybe someone might have become doctors, might have been a president of the United States there. Parents going to be the thrill of being grandparents is taken away from them.
Yeah, our plan for tonight's show was to talk about, and we may still talk about that because in some ways much of it is related. Examples, the multitude of examples of racist school teachers and school administrators, and what they subject their students of color to, and the blatant hypocrisy of that in light of how many of them hold a stance against CRT, which isn't even taught in middle school and grade school and junior high school or high school. It's college level theoretical analysis. But anything associated with African American history or immigrant history as it relates to American history is lumped into this homogeneous group called CRT. And so now you have a multitude of states pushing legislation or having passed legislation that ties the hands of administrators who do want to teach the totality of American history, the good, the bad, and the ugly, much like they do in Germany. And, when you have, and this shooting that took place in Texas, I don't believe was racially motivated, since the shooter was himself of Spanish origin and it was a predominantly Spanish neighborhood and school. But when you think about the nature of the types of teachers that we have and educators that we have, good evening, Jacqueline, subjecting our students to their hateful ideologies, their racism, their misogyny, their xenophobia, it's no small wonder that you have students acting out. It's no small wonder that you have somebody like the kid who shot those folks in Buffalo. He had Black friends. He had Spanish friends. He went to birthday parties. He went to Mexican restaurants. And there's this strange dichotomy with his personal life and how he chose to act out based on what he claims is ideology he learned off of the internet. But you've got these minds of young children being molded by teachers, administrators, influencers on the internet. And if our schools, if our history and our education is going to be so whitewashed, including the banning of books and the silencing of diverse voices, then you're leaving this gaping gulf to be filled by the ideology of white supremacists. I don't know why this gentleman shot up the school in Texas, and maybe we'll learn the reason why. Maybe we won't. He was killed supposedly by the police. But if he was living here and attending our schools, I almost feel like all of our students now must have some form of PTSD. It doesn't surprise me that so many of them are turning to violence. What are your thoughts, Reggie?
Well, going back to Texas, it was reported that before he got to the school, he had shot his grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he killed her or not. So, I mean, who knows what his rationale was for doing what he did today. But, you go back and you say that this kid in Buffalo had black friends, Hispanic friends, it might have been a way of him masking who he was, I mean, you can't live in both worlds. You're either going to be a racist and you're going to live in that world, or you're going to be a decent person and you're going to embrace all races and stuff, okay?
But we've seen it before. I mean, look, in our early shows, we interviewed that gentleman, Scott Shepard. And we saw that weird dichotomy with him as well, raised by a black nanny whom he loved dearly, but then got really caught up in the whole KKK racist supremacy bullshit. And it wasn't until he was confronted with a life or death situation, his own and his sister's, for health reasons, that he had his own sort of come to Jesus moment and realized that what he was doing was wrong. And he himself had said that his getting hoodwinked into that was because he was lacking in father figure and lacking in a sense of community with his own family, yada, yada. And I'm not going to sit here and judge that. That's his personal story, and he's on the right side of the fence now, fortunately. But I think a lot of these young minds, a lot of these children, because an 18-year-old is still a child in my book. They're a teen, right? They're 18. They're still a teenager. Their minds are not fully developed. And yes, they should be held accountable for their actions because they're adult enough to know what they're doing is wrong. There's no question there. But they're being inundated with all of this indoctrination and this hate.
Sharon, let me tell you where I'm at right now in my life. I'm tired of hearing white folks give out this BS statements and excuses they give for going down the wrong road, okay? If I wanted to, I could have been a bank robber, a rapist, or murderer if I chose to, okay? But I chose to be a decent citizen, get an education, and try to be something in this society, okay? We make choices. Okay, we have the opportunity to look beyond situations and say, that situation is not for me. Okay, if you can even got an ounce of brains in your head, you should be able to make concrete decisions that make sense. Okay, on how you're going to live your life. Okay, you make choices and then you make excuses for making those choices. Okay,
I don't disagree.
And I think when it comes to racism and that type of behavior, it's more of a learned situation. It's taught. You see people talking about it. You buy into it. That kind of thing. Okay. You just got so many, and not all white folks are racist, but a lot of them out here that harbor. They hate blacks. They just plain out hate blacks, and you ask them why, they can't give you a reason. Okay. Now you were talking about earlier how we need to make sure in our schools that we are teaching the right history, the true history, and the kids are learning about the history. Not to say that white folks ought to feel like they're ashamed because they are taught. The kids are taught. Nobody's trying to shame the kids, but you have to teach history in order not to repeat history. Okay?
Absolutely.
But at the same time, when you out there killing CRT and killing 1619 Project in the schools and going against that, you got a fool like Tucker Carlson on Fox News Network spewing hatred constantly, 24/7, spewing hatred.
But that's my point. On the one hand, we're fighting on so many fronts. On the one hand, they're whitewashing history. They're passing legislation to ban teaching of African-American history in schools. They're leaving this massive gulf and making it easier for children to be radicalized and prone to the teachings of supremacy. When you ban books and you silence diverse voices, and you do everything you can to rob people of their true history, you've got folks are going to look to fill that void with something. And these schools, and we're seeing it happen literally right in front of us, are filling that with revisionist history. You know, a Fox contributor said that, what the hell? The Biden administration is trying to brainwash our kids with racist leftist theories. Since Biden administration got into the White House, they've been trying to develop a plan to indoctrinate our children. And once again, the right is projecting onto the left the very shit that they're doing. We've seen Cruz turn down now over 40 math books simply because a shop owner they reference has got an African American name or a Hispanic name, or it references something about the civil rights movement. That is not CRT. And they're doing everything they can to obliterate the gains that our community and other communities have made since the 60s. And if they have their way, in one more generation, no one will know about the civil rights. No one will know about when people stood up against a tyrannical government. No one will know that fighting for your liberty and your rights is an option, because that understanding will have been bred out of the population. You know, and these young white men are being convinced that, you know, of the whole replacement theory. They're being sold a bill of goods. You know, I think my generation and your generation, I think we benefited because we were still in touch with our grandparents and in some instances great grandparents. We had direct connection with people who were involved with the civil rights movement, who were part of history during that time, yourself included. But this generation, these millennials and 18-year-olds and whatever they call the next generation, don't have that benefit. And if they can't get it in schools, or they don't have socially conscious parents who are willing to teach it to them, how are they going to learn it? How are they going to know to ask the question if they don't know the subject even exists?
Well, if you live in Texas, you definitely want to know the subject, because Texas got the worst control on books in the country. I mean, they basically have rewritten their history books to exclude slavery and everything else, anything that had to do with recognizing what the past of this country was, okay? You have a freaking country that goes and steals people from another country to come build their country, okay? And we still catching hell on the back end of it because we don't get no respect. We get brutalized by the police, and the list can go on and on and on and on and on, okay? But they feel like they're doing something right, you know. I tell you, I ain't got no love for Tucker Carlson, okay? Somebody pop the cap in him, hey, so be it, you know.
Very unpriestly of you there, Mr.
For his actions, okay? I don't have time for his BS, okay? But you got a certain segment of the population that gravitates towards that mess, okay? Replacement theory, okay? What in the hell? If you're an average person with half a brain, how can you be replaced, okay? How are Democrats going to spend their time?
How many of these people have
train them to learn them how to vote so we can take over the government? We could take over these state governments if people just get registered and vote. We don't need replacing. We don't need to replace people. We don't need to bring in extra people. We need the people that are here now to go out and vote.
Absolutely. But again, considering how many people voted for Trump again, I'd say at least 70 million people in this country don't have half a brain.
Well, they don't. When you look at the Republican Party down in Georgia, putting up Herschel Walker to run for Senate, they should have just put a dog up there with a brain and let the dog run in his place. Here you have a person who's lied about graduating from high school, say he was a valedictorian. High school didn't even have a valedictorian or salutatorian. What he did in college, okay? Then he's a wife beater and an abuser, okay? But those Georgia Republicans with a fourth of a brain, okay, they vote him in to run against Warnock, an intelligent black man. And then, but look at this. Herschel is so stupid, okay? He won't debate. He already said he won't debate Raphael, because he knows he's not smart enough to debate an intelligent black man. Okay.
Yeah, but you know what? At the end of the day, these people don't care if they're smart enough because they know that their base will believe anything coming out of their fucking mouths.
What I'm saying, trying to get to, you're gonna accept in your party a man who is known to have beaten his girlfriend and his wife. You're gonna accept that? And you call yourself the moral majority? You call your party the party of morals?
Yeah, but remember, this is also the neo-evangelical party that believes women should be seen and not heard and be subjugate to their husband. And she must have done something wrong, spoke out of turn.
Yeah, and beaten. You know, so they accept that, all in the name of trying to keep a seat, hoping that, oh, we'll put two black men up against each other. Well, you're putting one dumb black man up against a very intelligent black man. But you got dumb people in the Republican Party that are going to vote for this guy.
Meanwhile, they're arguing against CRT because they don't want something. See, legislature approved legislation that would ban the teaching of anything that would make individuals feel discomfort, guilt, or anguish because of race, gender, or national origin. Now, on the one hand, this is coming from the party that coined the phrase snowflake, right? So you don't want to learn any history about what your forefathers did because it's going to make you feel bad. Well, this is a population that doesn't feel bad about shit. But then they don't have a problem calling a student a nigger and telling them to pick cotton and give them, refer to them in racial slurs and be obnoxious and allow those students to be bullied. That's okay. And it just goes to say again that they don't care about us and our people.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not even trying to hide it anymore.
Herschel Walker is so stupid. He said CTR. He was tired of talking about CTR. That's how stupid he is, okay?
Well, let them write legislation against CTR, and we'll just do what we want with CRT. That's fine.
And, you talk about, how whites have it in their minds that blacks during the time of slavery were happy. I don't know how in the hell they thought that, okay? Because this is the thing. I was looking at a 60 Minutes 2 Sundays ago, and they were talking to this family who unknowingly had purchased a plantation down in Virginia. And it's no big deal, but it's so much history there. And they were finding out through the previous landowners who were white about the history because they sold off a portion of the farm. Just happened to be the plantation portion they sold off. But they didn't, they had heard about the history of the farm, so they started doing some research. So there are still some slave houses, even up to today, that the University of Virginia archaeology department went down and looked at. They wanted to dig more into what had happened. How in the world are you going to tell me I'm happy living in a house that's no bigger than the office I'm sitting here in my house right now?
Mm-hmm.
That you had
7 people,
that you had you did your cooking in there, you're bathing in there, you're sleeping in there, you're sitting in there, you're praying in there, and we were happy. No, we tolerated, okay? We tolerated and we prayed because we knew that was going to be a better day for us.
Is that the family that because I was watching another story about a family that bought a plantation, and it turned out that some of their ancestors had worked on that plantation.
Yeah. And the relative who bought it, because they talked to one of the relatives and buying it, he pushed back the longest trying not to buy it, but the family kept pressuring him to buy it. And then he's glad he bought it because it brought out a whole lot of history about his family and the plantation they lived on and what they did, But so the kids need to know about this history. Nobody's trying to make you feel like you were, that you're paying for the sins of your ancestors, which you should be paying because we should be getting reparations. I mean, we worked, our ancestors worked for free. They didn't get no pay or nothing like that to try to build this country. And we were the ones built this country. Just think about it. If them lazy so-and-sos from down south those lazy Europeans hadn't gone to Africa and guiding people, just think about what this country probably would have ended up being. Nothing. Okay, nothing. Just picture nothing. They still probably running around here on horses, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because we have created so many different things, invented so many different things in this country. GPS, um, potato chips,
Cell phones,
you name it.
stoplights, toilets. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
We've invented so much. Then you say, well, we y'all should go back where y'all came from. We didn't ask to come here. We were forced to come here. But if we go back, give us our money and our patents for everything we did, and then we're going to charge y'all for using that stuff, or either you have to dispose of it. This country wouldn't even be able to make it. A black man laid out the city of D.C. Okay, even though you get lost in it sometimes, a black man laid out D.C., okay?
Yeah, but again, back to our original point, it'll only take one generation before people don't know that anymore and can't even find that information. If the right gets what it wants.
Well, I thank God for the African American Museum of History. Okay, that's the one monument that we have that contains the majority of our history. Okay, you just you just need to take your kids and your grandkids or your family. You need to come down to Washington D.C. to the African American History Museum. Okay, and you will see stuff that you didn't even realize there and taking place. And there's some stuff left out, but you couldn't tell the whole story.
Yeah,
but it's
too many
enough of that
stories to
story.
tell.
Yeah, but it's enough of that story being told in the African American History Museum where generations to come will get a sense of what happened, okay? Even if they don't get it in the schools.
It's very frustrating because, the hypocrisy across the board has become so blatant. You can't even ask the rhetorical question anymore because it's sort of like extraordinarily rhetorical. I'm looking at this list of instances where teachers have been put on administrative leave, fired, or quit, or caused protests because of their treatment of students of color. And, on the one hand, yeah, I saw that. On the one hand, they talk about
Michael.
On the one hand, they talk about not wanting CRT because it makes people feel bad. That the feelings of these snowflake children is so important. Pro-life and all of this other nonsense. How are these bigoted and racist teachers allowed to continue? How are they allowed to keep their license to teach? And again, it's a rhetorical question because we know that obviously these particular school districts, if not many, are run by racist school boards, racist boards of education. The system itself has deep-rooted biases. So the question is no longer why, but what can we do about it? Protesting to get a teacher fired will only get us so far. Do we open our own schools? Do we start our own charter schools and litter the country with them? What can we do to counter what's happening to our people in schools?
Well, you can be creative and do a lot of things. And like one thing we do in our church, the month of February is Black History Month. And that's what we talk about. We teach the month of February. We do a great job of promoting Black history during the month of February. But I think we can go one step further too. We need to take some of the examples from the Black Panther Party, okay? And we need to have weekends like Saturdays in our community could be educational Saturdays, okay? Where you have classes and you teach about Black history and stuff, okay? And I think that's going to have to be an ongoing process where you're going to have to pick up the mantle and run with it. And for the next 100 years, teach the kids, the here and now, and those who are to be born about Black history. And that's the only way you're going to do it. It's something we're going to have to do because the schools, they wiped it out already. Like I told you before, years ago. I looked at my daughter's 10th grade history book when she was in 10th grade, and it was only like 1 or 2 pages given to Black folks. And maybe a paragraph or a sentence given to slavery. Okay? They basically taken out that information. The only time they want to talk about Martin Luther King is on uh, uh, his birthday or his assassination, the only thing they want to talk about then is "I Have a Dream" speech.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they want to be in safe. They want to be in safe territory when it comes to Black history. So it's going to take the community as a whole to continue the legacy of Black history.
Yeah.
You know, even the kids today don't even know who Reverend Jackson is. Okay, these are modern day guys. Okay, these are not guys from 1800. These are guys that have been around for a little while and still are living. You know, I mean, you probably ask them about L. Sharpton, they probably don't even know who he is. Because the first thing is parents don't push the kids to read anymore. Okay, you can read books on your cell phone. I mean, I have Kindle, and I got too many books in Kindle I haven't even gotten to yet. But I buy them and I put them in Kindle. That hopefully in my retiring years I can sit back with my phone in hand, read a book. You can set your kids up to be successful and learn history, but we don't. But if a rapper is rapping about calling women bitches and hoes and doing everything else and screwing your mama and screwing your sister and your grandmama, they know the lyrics to those songs.
Yeah. Well, again, that's permissible, right? So it's allowed to obliterate our history. It's promoted this commercial aspect of rap, which isn't even how it started.
Yeah.
You know, it started having meaning and having purpose, and in part educating our community about current day politics and situations as well as our history. Somehow they got control of it, and ever since then it's been nothing but bitches and hoes and getting mine and G7s and all of that nonsense. You know, so I think as long as it distracts us, as long as it keeps us in our feelings, but only the feelings that they want to nurture, which are feelings of ineptitude, the future is an impossible task, that's fine, because we're easier to control then. But we're seeing we're seeing our very right to exist attacked on every level. That's okay. You know, and it's women being attacked right now. It's people of color being attacked. It's immigrants being attacked. It's a very scary time right now. And I can only imagine how much worse it would have been if Trump had won a second term.
We'd be fighting. We'd be hand-to-hand combat out here now, you know. And when you look at it, it's white male figures that is doing all the damage here in the country, okay?
Yeah.
You know, and not saying, you know, it's a certain group of them, mainly Republicans, who are trying to get total control of this country, and they're willing to do anything and find people who would go like again, you go back to the example of Herschel Walker. Herschel Walker is an embarrassment to the Black community, okay? But they don't mind putting somebody up there like that because he's someone they can control. Herschel probably can't even spell Senate, okay? But say he was to beat Raphael, and I pray and hope that he doesn't, and I don't think he will. He's just going to be sitting there in the Senate. They're going to tell him how to vote, tell him when to eat, how to get to the bathroom. You know, Herschel is a typical modern day slave, okay? That's going to bow down to his master, Trump and McConnell, and do their bidding, okay? And think that they love him. They don't give a rat's ass about him, okay?
He cursed, Tony. He cursed.
They don't. They don't, okay? They don't care about him. But they want to control the narrative. So they find guys like him and Lee Elder and Candace Owens and people like that can control the narrative for them and, you know, try to draw us in, us Blacks that have common sense, try to draw us into the party. And we don't go. And they get mad at us for not going. Granted, the Democratic Party hasn't done everything they can do for the Black community, okay? Have they done a great job? Yeah, no. They've done a so-so job.
I always used to say that the primary difference between the Democrat and the Republican Party is how much rope we have. The Republican Party would enact everything immediately. They no longer care about maintaining appearances. Their racism and misogyny and xenophobia are plain out, spotlight on it, plain as a nose on your face. We know that there are racists in the Democratic Party as well, some undercovers, but they at least still try to maintain the facade of being the good guys. And that's where I think the rope is a little bit longer. And by rope, I don't mean hanging us. I mean how much lead time we might have before the trigger is pulled to do something about it. So with the Democratic Party, we might have this much leeway, time to kind of position ourselves and do something about it. With the Republican Party, we have this much leeway because they're doing everything right now they possibly can to steal votes, to steal elections, to change our ability to vote, to deny us our bodily autonomy. And, if certain Republicans have their way, eliminate laws that allow interracial marriages and things of that nature and take us back to, 1930. And if we allow this bullshit to continue in schools, that's just going to get easier to do and maintain because there'll be nobody around to question them. There'll be nobody around to say, this isn't right, this isn't how it used to be, this is how, this isn't what we fought for. Because in 1 or 2 more generations, they're not going to know any of that. Because as you said, people now in their 20s or early 30s who don't know who Martin Luther King is, don't know W. Du Bois, or what's the other fella's name? I can picture him. I just can't. The general, the guy who liked to dress up like a general. Was that Du Bois? Who was the one that wanted us, who proposed?
Oh, you're talking about Marcus Garvey?
Garvey, yes, that's it.
Marcus Garvey, yeah.
That don't know of these people and only know the names of the martyrs and the people that they want to limit us to. I used to get annoyed in college until I took some African American study courses. That it seemed odd to me that the only leaders I ever learned about were Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and then Rosa Parks. That was it. We didn't learn about anybody else who was influential in the civil rights movement, who was successful in gaining freedom and making a life for themselves. You didn't hear about any of that. At the college level and at high school level, simply because I had parents who informed me, I had to look for that information. So if I didn't have people in my life who exposed me to that information, made me curious and drove me to research it and take courses in it in college, I wouldn't have known it existed. I wouldn't have known to ask the question. And that's what concerns me with what's going on in these schools. So you have these racist teachers and administrators abusing students, and at the same time, this complete obliteration and whitewashing of our history. So they won't have access to the information and the tools they need to know that things could be and should be better or can be better, that this shouldn't be legal, that this isn't what the Constitution means with respect to my being a citizen of this country.
And I think we got to realize we have been our own worst enemy, not by no choice of our own and not intentionally, but when Black flight made its way to the North, looking for better opportunities, we set the South up to be what it is today. Okay. A gentleman, I got to look up his name and buy his book. And he wrote down, and we've talked about this before, he wrote a book on how we could upend in the South by moving back into the South and increasing our numbers, okay? But you got to look at the generation that would probably move back, aged out and they, comfortable where they are living, but they won't. But when you look at cities like Houston, Atlanta, Dallas, millennials are moving to those cities. So there's still some hope, but it's 10 years down the road. It's not no instant relief, okay? You got Blacks moving to Arizona and places like that, So I think in order for us to really, get back in the game, we've got to get into these areas and push ourselves back to move back to these areas. I mean, I think Stacey Adams has an excellent chance of winning, but it's going to take everybody coming out, So again, like I said, we have to teach our kids about Black history. Okay, that's the only way they're gonna learn about it. And I would love to see a rapper come out and maybe make a 2 or 3 disc EP rapping about history, because sometimes you have to meet young folks where they are.
Yeah.
So we know they love rap music. So why don't you do a album in rap talking about Black history?
You should reach out to KRS-One because he's the one to do it. Put him together with Nas.
And that's what we need. We need stuff like that. That's how we reach them. I mean, even in the church, you've seen the music from when Tom Dorsey, did his version of Precious Lord, I believe it was. And people didn't like that. And, they saying that was back in the 30s and 40s. They ain't like that. And then you come down to Old Happy Day, and they really had a fit in the church. And then when Kirk Franklin came down on the scene, I think the Black church was about ready to close down then. But you got music has been a connecting force in our community that has allowed us to get to the people we need to get to. And so if we need to get to young people to make them understand the Black history, then put a rap song out there, put some rap music out there about Black history.
Yeah, no, and now's the time to do it since we have so many wealthy, well-off Black producers.
Yeah.
And Black radio shows and TV shows. I think it's probably easier now to do something like that than it would have been, 30 years ago.
Yeah, and I miss Tom Joyner because he had a segment on his show every morning that was sponsored by McDonald's, Little Known Black History Facts. And he did that every morning. And, gave us the opportunity to learn some stuff we might not even knew, And so we got to get going, because like I said, we are losing a generation, and the school system is not going to change because some of these counties are so conservative that they are the only thing they're not right now. They don't care about electing conservative councilmen or commissioners or mayors or anything like that. And you got to get the Republican Party their props on this. When they get focused on one particular entity or one particular theme or idea, that's where they concentrate. So what they're doing, they say, look, our chances aren't good as far as trying to control the cities or control the counties. But if we work hard, because in most states, in just about all states, Board of Education races are nonpartisan. Okay. So they're like, hey, we can put our people out there and flood our people to run for the school board. Hey, we got them.
Yeah, no, they've been excellent at the long con, and they've been doing it for a really long time.
Yeah, you got to give them props for that. And that's where we fall short for those of us that deal with the Democratic Party. That's where we fall short at. We don't have a plan to, conquer what's happening. We do not have a plan.
Yeah.
And that's why we keep getting tripped up because we don't have a plan.
It's hard not to get despondent.
Yeah.
You see the direction that things are going in right now.
And like you said earlier, tomorrow, Ted Cruz, because this happened in Texas, he'll offer his condolences, but won't offer nothing else. And
he'll probably go on a tirade about border control.
Yeah.
And that will set me off because, so one person of Spanish descent does a shooting out of 198 mass shootings since the beginning of the new year.
Yeah.
And that's your takeaway.
Yeah.
Not gun control, not background searches, not being a little more responsive to some of the clear and obvious signals that exist. And, and then that's the other thing too, like with respect to these mass shooters, and we're a little off topic here, they've all gone online. Many of them have posted manifestos. Many of them have posted, racist, misogynic rhetoric, anti-Semitic rhetoric online. The signs were there. But unless you're operating with big government who's eyeballing everything, you can't really do anything about that until they take action or you do something about gun controls. And perhaps, if you're going to say that these fellows who've gone out and done mass shootings were mentally ill, then it actually explains in part why they have an issue with denying proposals to ban people with mental illness from owning guns. Because if by their own standard, all the racists are mentally ill.
Yeah.
They want them to have guns. So.
Now, one thing, I was looking at the basketball game, the pregame stuff. They showed Steve Kerr, coach of Golden State, doing his pregame talk. And like he said, 50 men in D.C. are holding Americans hostage. When you got almost over 90% of Americans, regardless of what their party affiliation is, have said that we need to do better with background checks and a couple other things to have common sense gun laws, okay? And those 50 men are holding on to their power, and that's all they're doing. They don't give a crap about what happens in America, okay? They don't give a crap about those young kids that got killed today, okay? Yeah, it's just like the congresswoman for Buffalo. All she said was, "Well, my condolences go out to the family." But she never mentioned the fact that this guy was a white supremacist, he was an idiot or nothing like that, and that we need to do better with our gun laws, because Republicans are afraid of losing power if they do something that makes sense.
I will say that our governor did make a statement along those lines, and I'm not a huge fan of hers, but I did respect that she called a spade where that was concerned.
Yeah, well, your congresswoman in Buffalo, she did.
We have an existential crisis going on in this country on multiple levels.
And it's gonna get worse before it gets better.
Just like your cough.
Hey, allergies, girl, I tell you, I'm gonna move to Arizona where it's dry. It's desert and dirt. Maybe won't be no allergies in the dirt, But yeah, we'll just, it's not. We don't know where it's gonna happen at next, but guaranteed to happen.
Yeah, well, there's been a lot of violence here in New York lately. Attacks on trains and shootings, and
yeah.
More since we came out of COVID than I've noticed ever before.
Well, I guess a lot of pent up craziness during COVID. If you notice, COVID made everything go down.
Well, yeah, people were stuck at home.
But it seemed like the criminals are trying to make up for lost time now, being that they can get back outside. It's a lot of craziness, even down here. There was a big fight over in Alexandria today at one of the malls that the kids hang out. Kid got stabbed. Dead. Shootings. So many shootings in D.C., Baltimore, places like that. People are really getting killed. And you wonder sometimes if it's even worth going out into the nightlife. But, I refuse to allow what's happening to make me a prisoner in my own house. I'll be honest, I've thought about, getting a concealed carry, because as a judge, it's pretty easy for me to get a concealed carry, and I've really been thinking about it, because you don't know what's going to happen to you when you're sitting at the stoplight waiting for the light to change. Okay. You don't know what's going to happen at night when you're trying to get to your car.
Please, every day that I'm on the train, I'm looking at who gets on the train, who gets off the train, who's sitting at who's staring at who. And other times I'll get up and go into another car if somebody looks fishy to me.
Yeah. But why should you have to do that? Why should you have to move from car to car to feel comfortable and feel safe? That's the world we're living in now. It's crazy that we've gotten this bad. I had posted on Facebook that how can we go around defending democracy around the world when we can't even defend democracy in our own country?
Oh, we're too busy dismantling it. That's why.
And so we got to wake up and start doing things to try to make this country better than what it is. Okay. My guest I had on my show last night, she said when she lived over in Italy, the county she lived in Italy hadn't had a murder in 20 years. That police officers don't carry guns.
Yeah, I remember when I lived in Sweden when I was 13, and I experienced more culture shock coming back to the States than I did living there for almost a year.
Right.
Because I got to see, when you never leave your country or your town or your state, you think that that's the universe for you. That's the world.
Yeah.
Everything else is hearsay. Your reality is what you can see, smell, touch in your direct vicinity. And seeing the social rules that existed there that didn't exist here, and the way kids interacted with each other, and the way adults interacted with kids, and just all of the rules that I had learned up until that age here in the city, in New York, in this country, didn't apply there. And so learning a different way of life while I was out there and coming back here, I saw how shallow and insubstantial so much of the shit that I was being taught was cool and hip and important and relevant to my daily existence, was so important as a teenager, meant nothing. And it changed the way I looked at the world. It changed the way I looked at my peers and the news and the indoctrination that we get on a daily basis through everything. Whenever I travel abroad now, I feel a sense of psychic liberty in that I don't have to look over my shoulder every other second to see if there's a crazy person, an emotionally disturbed person, an incel asshole, a MAGA asshole. I don't have to worry about that. People say good morning and good afternoon, and they're kind, regardless of where you're from. And we've lost that here.
We lost a lot here. Tony was saying, makes you think twice about being in a crowd of people. You do, because if you're in a crowd of people, you got to constantly look around and know your surroundings, okay? Because you don't know. I mean, you just, it was a time, and this was years ago, that my wife, then my girlfriend, we were going into D.C. down to White House at midnight and walk around Lafayette Square. And
romantic.
Yeah, I'm saying just giving us something to do. But we would just walk around, Yeah, there were a few homeless people down there, but you could walk around at 12 o'clock at night in that area near the White House. Just walk around, walk through the parks, walk up near the Washington Monument and stuff like that, and not have any type of fear or anything's going to happen to you. Now, I won't do that crap now. I ain't walking there. You think I go down there? As many police there are down that area, Secret Service and everything there.
Black as you are? No,
I would not walk in that area there because somebody will attack you. Simple as that. So that's how things have changed in the last 30 years, 31 years, that the world is changing and you got to adapt to it, And so now you got to worry about your kids when they go to school in the morning, because who knows, it might be a copycat out in California or Nebraska or Virginia who might be thinking the same thing, and we don't know if it's going to happen again. You thought after Sandy Hook that was it. No, it happened today.
Well, that just like we said in our last show, supremacists don't even care about their own at the end of the day. They just care about the fallacy of supremacy and control. And the strange thing too is, half of these folks are going to be dead in 30 or 50 years. So they're not even maintaining the system for themselves. They're like, it's their legacy to leave behind for the next generation of supremacists. Like, let them figure it out on their own. If they're truly supreme, then they'll gain power in their own right. Like, it's just.
But they don't have the sense in that brain. Their brains don't work like that, okay, to try to run for office and make a difference. But nobody gonna vote for them. This is my thing for the white supremacists. Okay, you're outnumbered. Most people think you're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So if you just hate being around blacks or people of color so bad that you want to be large in charge, pack up your bags and go back to Europe. They might not even have you in Europe. But better still, why don't you move to Russia? where they probably would embrace you and your dumbness and your lack of intelligence in countries like that. So why don't you just pack up your little bags and, maybe the president would pay for the airplanes, cargo planes that carry y'all over there and drop y'all off where you can live happily ever after.
Yeah, no, they wouldn't do that. The only way that would actually happen is if they had the means to strip the country of all of its natural resources like the Dominican Republic did to Haiti. Then they would do it gladly, happily, gleefully, leaving us to whatever mess they left behind. But they're convinced that this was supposed to be their country. They're convinced that if we were all gone, their lives would be better, failing to understand how vital we are to the economy. But at the end of the day, the system wants us all to be serfs. The system wants us all to be slaves. We're at the top of the list, sure, and then immigrants, but poor white people are going to suffer just as badly. It's not like they're going to get 40 acres and a mule and suddenly become aristocratic landowners. They're going to have the shit end of the stick just like the rest of us. And I don't know what they're thinking when they worship their golden calf that is drunk. That their lot in life is going to get better or easier or whatever if we all disappeared.
That's what they feel. A poor white person looks down on a poor black person, and they're in the same boat. And they think they're better than a poor black person. And they ain't got a pot to piss in, okay? And that's how they act.
And these folks are allowed to be our teachers.
Yeah. And instead of a poor white person trying to unite with a poor black person trying to make things better in this country, they're working against the system.
What I want to see, though, is, how we mentioned at the beginning of the show, how they're approving legislation to ban the teaching of anything that will make their kids feel discomfort, guilt, or anguish because of race, gender, national origin, or sexual identity. I want to see our people sue some of these school districts when the failure to teach African American history makes somebody feel discomfort or anguish, or any of these other categories. I want to see them flip the script on this law en masse in every one of the states that's trying to pass shit like this.
But that's the problem. We don't try to flip the script. We just accept the script for what it is. If we start going and protest and saying we want Black history taught, pushing up on these boards of education, a lot of this stuff will stop because they wouldn't want it. So they'll figure to stop it, okay? 1619 project is not a bad project, okay, for kids to learn from. You had Dumbo the president, then he was doing something dealing with the Revolutionary War, whatever it was, calling it the 1776 project or whatever it was. But we've got to fight fire with fire. Until we learn how to fight fire with fire, we're going to continue down this winding road that we're going down. Okay? Yeah. And we got to learn how to do that, we got to fight back. We got to fight back, But like I said, it's sad what happened today, very sad. Like I said, you can kind of swallow grown-ups and say, gosh, we got to do better as a society. But when you go in there and kill innocent kids, I mean, just think, you got your kid up this morning, you fed them, you packed their lunch, or you gave them money for lunch, got the books together, and you sent them off to school. And probably going to take them to McDonald's this afternoon when you got out for work. Help them with their homework. Now, because of a maniac, for whatever reason he did it, your kid is dead. But no, the Republicans gonna make some negative statements about his mental stability. They're gonna dig.
No, he's Hispanic. They're not gonna go.
They're gonna dig to see if he was supposed to be here legally. 9 times out of 10, he was here legally because they say they think he might have went to elementary school there. So, it's a lot of things, but that's what they're going to say, they're going to look at his mental stability, his state of mind.
we don't get the luxury of being considered mentally ill or unstable, you know. And I was reading a really interesting article the other day, and I cannot remember where it was from, but it was reviewing the tendency of looking at Black children or children of color and perceiving them as older, so that young girls can be sexualized at a young age, and young boys are called young bucks, you know, good for the cotton field or whatever, and seen as young men long before your regular, average, everyday white child is considered a young man or a woman. There's this tendency to infantilize white children and demonize children of color and immigrants. So it doesn't surprise me they've called this fella, well, I saw one article that referred to him as a teenager and the rest referred to him as a gunman. And just like, you know, the shooter in Buffalo, most of them refer to him as a boy.
He won't no boy.
So,
well, it is what it is, you know.
We have 2 minutes left, so I don't know if Tony wants to say anything. We were covering a lot.
We do want to let our viewers know that this is our last show. We're going on summer hiatus, and we'll be back in September 13th. But you can go to Real World News TV for updates, and we'll be trying to keep that page updated throughout the summer with breaking news. And you might even see us pop up doing a Facebook report, you know, just try to keep things going, you know. But you know, hey, this is it for a while.
You okay, Tony?
No. As you guys were broadcasting, I'm listening between you guys and CNN and to watch these parents standing outside the school with complete fear. To find out if their child has been killed.
Yeah, that's gut wrenching. I can't. I can easily see this country saying, "Screw that! Everybody get homeschooled from now on," because this is it's just getting ridiculous.
You know, and I was thinking about that as you guys were coming to a close, and you were talking about, you know, teaching the babies. I don't think that when my granddaughter becomes to school age that I'm going to allow her to attend a public school or private school. I think this is
what if her parents wanted, you know, Tony, I understand where you're coming from, okay? Believe me. I've got 3 young grandkids right now, okay? And I got one that's in high school. So I got 4 grandkids. And my concern, I had that great concern too. But like I said earlier in the program, our legislators have got to figure a way to solve this problem about guns, okay? Yeah. And we cannot back up and say we're going to corral our kids now and we're going to put them in prison, because that's going to kill their social ability to connect socially, okay? We just got to we got to put pressure on our senators to do better. If that means the 50 senators that are holding us hostage, if that means those states have got to vote those people out if they won't take a pledge to do better with gun laws. And that's what we got to do. We got to start fighting back. And I think as a community, regardless if you're a Republican or Democrat, if as a citizen, if you're not fighting back against this mess, then something's wrong with you. Mm-hmm. Because this can happen anywhere.
When people are going to understand that this is going to keep happening.
Yeah.
And it's all because of what?
Power.
Because
power. They want to stay in power.
Your right to carry a gun. Okay, it's your right to carry a gun. But you've got to put something in place that is going to protect our children. These were not high school kids. They weren't middle schoolers. They were babies.
Babies.
And I really want people to let that word resonate. Babies. If you put it in context,
unfortunately,
they were only here for what, 8 years?
Unfortunately, because a lot of them are Hispanic, I don't think there's going to be the outcry that there should be.
I don't know.
We have to get away from.
Yeah.
There wasn't an outcry at Sandy
about
Hook.
what happens with Black people, what happens with Hispanic people and Asian people and white people. Shit, these are babies.
Yeah. Sherry, I beg to differ. You know, I've been looking at this ever since it happened today, okay? And when you look at the pain that's coming from the reporters, okay? When you see the pain in the reporter's face, okay? When it's hard for them to even tell the story, do you know, unfortunately, that this might be the one incident that pushes this country in another direction? I mean, reporters couldn't even tell the story today.
I hope so. I'm losing faith in this country. We've seen wag the dog. Things we've seen things happen so many times that we think this has got to be the watershed moment. And how many times have we been disappointed?
Yeah, but Sherry Ann, this is where we end up talking about those who have become desensitized to it. As long as we continue to say, okay, now I'm getting numb to it. Enough is enough. Nothing's going to happen. It is my utmost prayer that this be the one.
Yeah.
It was my utmost prayer that the last one would have been the one. And I'm going to still pray that, of course, we know it's going to happen again. God knows I hate to say it, but the truth is the truth. It's going to happen again, but I'm still going to pray. That is going to be the one.
Yeah. You know, just like we pray every time a Black unarmed person is killed or tortured by police, we pray that this is going to be the one. That this is the threshold, and it hasn't yet.
Yeah.
The summer of civil unrest was the moment that I thought was going to be change, because we had a confluence of a lot of things: women's right with the pink pussy hats, the civil unrest with George Floyd, and you still had some of those students from Sandy Hook talking about gun violence. What have we had since last summer? Bupkis. All of those people that were so woke and present and loud and marching in the streets. We're not seeing that same energy right now.
No, we're not.
And that's why I'm fearful.
That is because of gun lobbyists. That's why.
Yeah, NRA.
And I was looking at Biden's address while you guys were on, and it was something different about his delivery. He was at tears.
Well, let's see him do
and this
something.
is not like the tears we've seen before.
Yeah.
We're talking about babies.
So let's see him do something. Executive order or National Guard. Do something.
That's the thing. With the Constitution, you can't, executive orders can't.
You can't override
a Constitution. The only way we can make effective change here in this country is through disobedience by citizens that force the states to make changes in the Constitution, okay? To do the constitutional amendments. It's up to the states to do what they have to do with the influence of the national guys. And that's what's not happening. Okay, a Texas official already tonight has already said that we need to start giving guns to teachers so they can have guns at school. That doesn't solve the problem. All you're doing is putting more guns on the street.
Idiotic thing that I've ever heard.
Yeah, that doesn't help.
Doesn't solve the problem.
Yeah.
You're putting more guns on the streets.
Yeah.
And more guns in the hands of racist teachers is the last thing that we need.
Yeah.
What we have to do as citizens, we have to target certain senators when they come up for election and run them out of office and make them feel the pain of Americans. And that's the only way they're going to do it. How can 50 men and women hold up 92% of what Americans want? Common sense gun laws. Power. That's all it is. They think they're in power to be in power. And screw the American citizen.
You're making my acid
Well,
reflux
I would
act
love
up.
to be the fly on the wall of some of these NRA supporters tonight to even see that they just don't give a shit.
No, they're going to use this as a platform to justify increasing gun ownership. That's what they've done after every one of these mass shootings. If so-and-so had had a gun, this wouldn't have happened. No, you would have had a shootout with 2 armed people. The police would have
And
shown
still
up and
children
not known.
in the way.
Yeah.
Well.
Oh well, we got a lot.
Guys.
This country is a long road to travel.
Yeah, it's truly a sad day. And like I said, I didn't have the television on all day.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry to burst that bubble.
And to turn it on after you guys had said that, just it has shook me to my core, because I love babies. I do. Oh my gosh, I love babies.
I think there were multiple mass shootings today, but I think this is the one that is getting all of the coverage, and we know obviously why. But yeah,
it's just too much. It's too much. So
a break is well timed.
Yeah, very well timed.
Yeah.
But thanks for doing such a great job tonight. I really appreciate it. You guys deserve some time off. You've been going strong, so you do deserve some time off, and I want you to enjoy it. Relax your brain.
I'll try.
All right. And to those who have tuned in, I want to say thank you for supporting Real World News TV throughout this last few months. They will be back the second week of September 12th or 13th. And same time, same platform, all of that good stuff. We just need a break, y'all. That's about it. So I invite you to tune in this week on Thursday for another episode of Truth Brothers TV with Ray. I forgot his last name just that quick. My brain is just messed up with this. With
Stormbreaker
and Devon the God.
What's their topic?
No, you know what? I haven't gotten their topic yet.
Okay.
Which I'm surprised. Usually I get it on Tuesday. But you can rest assured it's going to be a good one. So tune in to Truth Brothers TV this Thursday at 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific, 10 o'clock Eastern, right here on Facebook under the Hot Topics Talk Radio Network. And I know you guys will see me this Saturday, me or Yvonne Baker, because Cece will be coming up for you on Saturday. All right. So thanks again for your continued support. We really appreciate it. And Real World News and Urban Sentinel will see you back on September 12th and September 13th. So with that being said, we're going to get out of here. Thanks again. We love you.
Good night.
Good night.
I got to take all this stuff down before I do. Oh my God.
You can do it.
I'm never ready, ever. All right, Chara.
Stay in touch during the break.
I sure will.
All right, man.
All right. See you later. All right. Got to get us out of here, y'all. Sorry.